Harley Davidson's ultra classic Electraglide was its flagship model. It was their top of the line, fully optioned bagger, and it had all the modern tech. But that was over 30 years ago, and a lot of the technology is now what we'd call ancient. But does that mean the bike has no place being on the road today? Let's talk about that. Hi, welcome to Roads of Oz. My name is Matt, and on this episode we're looking at a 1992 Harley Davidson Ultra Classic Electraglide. And I'm going to give you some reasons why you shouldn't get it and a few why you should. The Ultra Classic Electraglide is part of Harley Davidson's touring range. It comes with Harley Davidson's Evo motor, which is a 1340cc or 80 cubic inch twin cylinder air-cooled motor, and that motor was pretty much found in every Harley Davidson apart from the Sportster range. In the Electraglide range, it was introduced in '84 and was replaced in 1998 by the twin cam motor. So in the user manual I was able to download from Harley Davidson, they quoted the horsepower at 69.5 horsepower at 5,000 RPMs, and torque was 80 foot-pound of torque at 4,000 RPM. But with bikes this age, you can imagine a lot of those horses have escaped to another paddock. Anyway, the Ultra Classic is Harley's full dresser, or it was the most optioned up bike of the day. Now this one come with top box and side panniers and a whole range of touring goodies like cassette deck, CB radio. There was provisions for a wide communication system. It also had cruise control and front driving lights. This bike was optioned up to the max. Now, the only real significant upgrade this bike saw was in 1995 when they had a frame upgrade and the Evo motor had the option of fuel injection. So what was good about it? Well, I love the paintwork on this bike. It really popped. Now, we associate Harleys with black and looking badass, but I love the red color on this bike, and I wasn't alone. This bike got more attention than I thought it would. Now, normally when you get an older Harley, you picture the cooler ones would be the Softail range. This one holds its own, and a lot of people commented on how much they liked the bike. That was both men and women. Now, I love the sound of it. The Evo motor, it just sounds fantastic. That lovely potato thump. Love the sound of it, and it just makes you smile. It's a sort of bike that you just get on and want to ride. On these models, the storage was just massive. The top box at the rear is capable of holding 2 helmets, and more importantly, it can hold a case of alcohol, no problem at all. Now, as you'd expect being a touring bike, and even though the seat looks like it's something from an 80s lounge, you know, because pretty much it is, it was very comfortable. I didn't feel the need to upgrade it, and I could do a whole day on that bike and felt totally comfortable on it. As you'd expect, this was Harley's full dresser, and it was designed to do a massive amount of miles. Now, another thing that really impressed me, and it wasn't actually on the bike, it was actually the support you have from the Harley Davidson network. Now, what I mean by that is I was able to jump online, punch in the VIN number, and it gave me an owner's manual, service manual, and every other bit of relevant data Harley had on file. They were happy to share it with you just by simply punching in the VIN number, and it was super accurate too. I put in the VIN number for this bike and the color, and even though it says it's not the exact bike, it was a very good representation. Now, you can do this on pretty much any Harley Davidson all the way back to 1980, and I can't think of any other manufacturer that does that. So that is excellent work from Harley Davidson. Now, the pillion seat is very inviting. It's a great place for people that have never been on the back of a bike. Just because it's got that nice big backrest, it gives people a sense of security. And even with its poor suspension, my wife preferred the Harley to my GS BMW. I talked about the excellent top boxes. What's not great about them is the latching mechanism. Now, if you don't latch these properly, they come loose, and they will just, due to the engine vibration, it will just pulverize the paintwork on it and cause it to chip. The side panniers, the cases, you actually have to take them off and put them to the side. So it's not like they're on a hinge or anything. That's a recipe for disaster, but it just makes you be more careful with them. But again, it's a bit of a pain. Even though the back seat is super comfy and it's got comfy floorboards for the passenger, those floorboards, there is not much room on them, especially when you push your feet back a little bit. The back issue does come into contact with the bike and it could rub on the paintwork. Just more of a heads up, but it was something my opinion, found a bit annoying at first, but like anything, once you get used to it, it's fine. When you look at a 10-year-old Harley Davidson Ultra, a lot of the tech looks old, and on this bike, it's no different. It's got a cassette deck, it's got a CB radio. The beauty of it is though, it is that old, it's seen as cool, but even though you don't use it, people look and go, oh, how cool is that? It's got a radio, it's got a CB, or how cool is that? It's got a cassette deck. Totally useless, except if you guys my age who've probably got a few cassettes hidden out the back somewhere. But again, it's a lot of the tech on it's very old. And well, it's a 30-year-old bike, of course the tech's old. All you've got to type in is issues with the Harley Davidson Evolution motor, and you're going to be inundated with common faults. Now, I'm not going to go through it on this video. I'm going to focus wholly and solely on what I found on the Electra. Now, one thing with Evolution motors, yes, they will leak for a number of reasons. One, they do vibrate, and because of their age, a lot of the gaskets are old, so they're going to start breaking down over time. What I found with the bike while I had it, I'd park it somewhere, I knew where I'd parked it because it left a little stain on the driveway or in my garage. So that's just a bit of a heads up. You will hear people say, oh yeah, they're capable of 300,000 kilometers, and I don't disagree with that, but there are a couple of provisos. Now, one, the motor has to be looked after properly and serviced and maintained by a caring owner, and two, to do that 300,000, cheap modifications aren't going to cut it. And if you're looking at buying one, make sure they haven't done some cheap power upgrades, because that will just shorten the life expectancy of the motor. Now, there's a lot of good products out there that will help improve performance without destroying the reliability, but just make sure when you're doing your power upgrades, take it to someone who knows what they're doing. Another common fault is, even though the Ultra Classic Electraglide has cruise control, they're known to fail, and this one was no different. Now, people like to change the head unit. From my understanding, there's a lot of things that are controlled via the head unit, things like the CB radio and the rear speakers. If the installation is just done quick and bodgy, things like the CB and the rear speakers will no longer operate. I'm sure that's an easy fix, but it's just something you need to be aware of. If you see a new head unit in the Ultra, good chance is your rear speakers and the CB aren't working. So the Electraglide does suffer starting issues, and what I mean by that is there's been times, even with a fully charged battery, the bike's failed to turn over. Now, this is a common problem on a lot of Evo motors and just Harleys in general from the 80s and 90s. Now, there is a simple bypass kit where there's a starter button right down near the starter motor, but what I normally do is just leave it for 5 minutes and try again a bit later, and it will generally start. All your Evo powered Ultra Classics are now well over 25 years old, so you're going to get issues, and that is no different to just about every other motorcycle out there. The beauty is Harley Davidson has a massive support network. Pretty much there is a massive range of parts, aftermarket and also original, that you can get to support your Evolution motor. And so far, I haven't been able to find a part I can't get for that bike. Due to the size of this bike and all the chrome work, you are going to spend a lot of time cleaning it. As much as I hate cleaning motorcycles, I actually didn't mind doing that one because it comes up so well and it looks great, and it's something you can sit back, crack a beer and actually enjoy looking at once you're finished. So what is it like to ride? Well, it's a real tough one. This is this paradox thing. When I first started riding it, I was putting it through corners and I was running very wide because I wasn't used to its sheer bulk. I was able to compensate for that and actually ride a bit like a trail bike, so I was pushing the bike down and putting my weight on top to get it to go around the corners. And then it dawned on me, that's not what this bike's for. So when I stopped trying to treat it like a sports bike and just treated it for what it was, a big comfy tourer, and just ride it accordingly, the corners were actually a bit of fun on it. Not only that, it's a big tourer and it likes doing the big highway miles. That's what the bike's designed for, not throwing around corners. You hear a lot of people talk about how bad the brakes are on Harley Davidsons, and yeah, they're right. They don't pull up anywhere near as well as a modern bike. Now, luckily on the Electraglide Ultra Classic, it's got twin discs up front, even though it's a single piston caliper. It pulls up okay without being exceptional. So if the traffic stops suddenly, yeah, you're going to be working it really hard to pull up. And add in to the weight of the bike, you've got to be really paying attention in build-up areas. Now, the suspension on this one has received an update. It's got progressive rear springs at the back, and they do pretty well. On bumpy roads, the suspension on the front does feel like you're holding onto a pogo stick, and it does work quite hard. And it'd be one of the first things I would update on the Electraglide. But yeah, it's one of those bikes, when you ride it, just makes you smile. Well, strangely it could. When you think about it, it's a very comfy seat. It's got plenty of storage options that you can carry groceries or put away all your bike gear. Now, the one area you're going to struggle with, the size is what brings it undone as being a good commuter. As for lane filtering, at the end of the day, it is a big, heavy old bike with not the best brakes, so you'd have to be very confident. I've been able to navigate this bike through some really tight traffic jams, and it held up beautifully, but again, it comes down to the rider. But my major concern would be parking it in bike parking, which is really tight, and worrying about someone scratching the nice paintwork. Anyone who's parked in the city knows how brutal and how much lack of care people have while getting their bikes out of those tight bike parking spots. Should you get one? Well, it's that paradox, isn't it really? I really struggle recommending it, but I love this thing. I think it's a great bike. You ride it, you can put some decent mileage on it. If you get a well looked after one, it could be a lot of fun. In my garage, I have the R1250 GS. Now, when I'm doing any big mileage, that's the bike I'm going to. Why would I want an early 90s Ultraglide Electric Classic in my garage? Well, it's a fun bike. It makes me smile. And that's the thing about this bike. You're not buying this bike for a sensible reason. You're buying it just out of the sheer enjoyment, and it'll definitely be a heart over head purchase. It just made me smile, and really, that's all a motorcycle needs to do. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and if you like this video, check out some other bike reviews right here.